When I read the Quran for the first time, I was struck by how many of our biblical figures appear in it: Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, even Mary. But something felt off. The stories weren't quite the ones I grew up with. Names were familiar, but the details had shifted. Haman, for example, appears as a minister under Pharaoh during the time of Moses. But any student of Jewish history knows Haman lived in Persia 1,000 years later in the Book of Esther. That's not a small mistake, it's a complete collapse of timelines. Then there's Mary. The Quran calls her the sister of Aaron, which would make her the literal sister of Moses too. But Mary, mother of Jesus, lived over 1,000 years after them. Some Islamic commentators explain this as a symbolic title, but it's hard to ignore the genealogical confusion. It reads as if different biblical stories were blended together without clear understanding of who lived when. Throughout the Quran, I recognize Jewish ideas, but often in altered forms. Stories about Abraham smashing idols or Solomon speaking to animals come not from the Torah, but from Midrash Jewish interpretive legends. These stories were never meant to be literal history. They're parables, moral lessons. But in the Quran, they're treated as fact, as if they came straight from our Bible. That tells me Muhammad likely heard Jewish teachings informally, perhaps from converts or community storytellers in Arabia. But he didn't read them from our texts. He heard them secondhand and often misunderstood them. As a Jew, I don't take offense at Islam's reverence for our prophets, but I take issue with the claim that the Quran corrects what it sees as distortions in the Jewish tradition. Our tradition isn't broken. It wasn't forgotten. We've carried it through exile, persecution, and centuries of effort to preserve it letter by letter. And now, there's another movement making similar claims, the Black Hebrew Israelites. They declare that we, the Jews who have kept the Torah for millennia, are not the real descendants of Israel that they are. They point to verses in Deuteronomy about curses and exile and claim those apply to them and not to us. I don't dismiss their historical suffering, but pain doesn't rewrite ancestry. You don't become a Jew through hardship alone. What troubles me most is not the challenge to our identity, it's the way our identity is treated as something anyone can claim simply by declaring it. As if Judaism were a title you could seize, not a life you must live. We didn't hold on to this tradition because it was easy. We held on to it when it meant isolation, poverty, and death. We whispered the Shema in basements while enemies marched above us. We memorized Torah when our scrolls were burned. We buried our loved ones in foreign lands while still praying in the